Hello and welcome to Mac Power Users. My name is Stephen Robles, and I'm joined by Apple pricing clairvoyant David Sparks. How's it going, David?
Hello, Mr. Robles. How are you today?
I'm doing well. If our members listen to our third bonus episode, you recounted your story of buying a MacBook Pro, and now it looks like you're the smartest person.
I'm not. So now it's out there. I've been talking about it in the labs too. I upgraded, guys. I went from M2 Studio to M5 MacBook Pro, and I was worried about the pricing. I'd like to say I was clairvoyant, but also I just wanted a new computer.
Well, it was serendipitous. That desire and what happened with pricing coincided as it did. And we're going to get into that a little bit. I think we both have thoughts. I did want to plug a couple fun things. We just stopped recording, as we're recording this episode, our monthly bonus with friends Mike Schmitz and Chris Bailey as part of the Relay bonus episodes, and we did a draft. I thought it was super fun, David.
Yeah, it was. We did a productivity apps draft for each one of us, and my goal going into it was to get Obsidian before Mike Schmitz did. That was my goal. But it actually was really fun, because Mike's a serious guy. He had a plan, and we all were just like, he was like herding cats. And I think the episode came out really good. So check it out.
That'll be super fun. Yeah, later this month, or sometime this month, it'll be coming out. So it'll be super fun. And on More Power Users today, I'm so glad you put this topic in the rundown because I have seen Toy Story 5 with my entire family. Yeah. And we're going to talk about it. And it is very tech adjacent, tech related.
Yeah. No, I want to talk about it with you. We went and watched it over the weekend, and it wrecked me, as Pixar movies do.
All the time.
I'll have to tell you the story of how I got tear stains on my Vision Pro goggles. But,
let me just tell you, I wore Vision Pro and used it as I was traveling to Dub Dub, and I had been meaning to watch Shrinking, the third season. Yeah. And if you've seen it, Shrinking is an excellent show.
It's on my list. I haven't watched it yet, but everybody says I should. Yeah.
It's very good, and if you cry at Pixar movies, you'll likely cry at Shrinking. And I was watching it in the Apple Vision Pro, and that light seal just gets soaked. It's like, what do you do? Do you stop? You take it off?
That happened to me too. It was Moana, frankly, that got me. But But first movie I watched it, I looked, I'm like, wow, this seal is not going to be the same.
we cannot watch a movie together, David, because we'll probably just both be blubbering.
Yeah, I know.
Because I cry at a lot of movies.
I'm very emphatic. Is that the word?
Yeah, emotive.
Empathetic.
Yeah,
there we go. Yeah.
And Pixar movies especially. I've not watched Coco because I specifically am a little nervous at how much I'll cry at it. So I've not done it yet.
Watch it alone. It'll get ugly.
Okay. Well, you know what else got ugly, David? Thanks for that segue. Is the Apple pricing schedule.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
This happened just as we're recording last week, and it'll be about 2 weeks since as you're listening to this. But Apple raised prices on all the iPads, the Macs, on things like HomePods and Apple TVs, with I have a slight bone to pick there. Yeah. But pricing has stayed the same for iPhone and Apple Watch, at least for now. We'll see what happens in the fall. Yeah. But man, the M5 Max MacBook Pro that you bought has gotten significantly more expensive, David.
Yeah, I got a loaded one because I wanted to run local AI on it, so I had to check a lot of boxes. And if I bought it today, it would cost $2,800 more than it did 2 weeks ago. So
that is wild. And I looked up. So I bought my Mac Studio last May. It was the M4 Max version, and I didn't need to upgrade at the time. I had an M1 Max, and it was okay. But I'm glad I did because one, my configuration is no longer available. I have the M4 Max 40-core GPU. 128 gigs of unified memory. Yeah. You can't get that anymore. You can only get 64, or you have to go to the M3 Ultra to get 96. And that's it. Can't get any more unified memory than that on the Mac Studio right now. But if you calculate the upgrade on a MacBook Pro from 64 to 128 unified memory, my Mac Studio, a year old even, would be $3,000 more. Yeah. And that is wild. And even MacBook Neo is $100 more expensive. Much of the iPad lineup, iPad Pro is $200 more, MacBook Air $200 more. It's expensive out there.
Yeah, all the coverage on this seems to be focused kind of on the entry prices. Like, oh yeah, the Neo went up $100, but where they really crush you is if you want to build up. If you want to get an 8 terabyte drive, that's now $3,000.
And
or
this is, go ahead.
roughly 6 MacBook Neos.
Right. And this is, I've been seeing it on Amazon because as we talked about backup a few months ago, I'd wanted to upgrade one of my network attached storage devices. And even then I was like, sheesh, 12 terabyte spinning disks are more expensive, let alone SSDs, SD cards even. I've seen some creators that are like, I can't even get the size I want because it's hundreds of dollars. But one of the most egregious percentage-wise increases I feel like are the Apple TV. The Apple TV is now $200 or $250 for the larger storage option. It comes in 64 and 128. Yeah. But to remind our listeners, it is 4 years old, unupdated, the Apple TV 4K, so 1,351 days since it's been updated. It runs on an iPhone chip, which I think is curious that the iPhones did not increase in price, and it has an A15 Bionic. It's an older iPhone chip, and yet the Apple TV 4K still increased in price. I think it's about 70%, especially if you go with the more expensive model. And the HomePod Mini got a $30 increase, which is like a 30% increase because it was $99, and that's not been updated for over 2,000 days. And those price increases, a lot of people online are like, they're just preparing because they're going to update them in the fall, and they didn't want to have to increase the price then. That's speculation, and even if so, it feels a little gouging to charge more for the devices that are multi-years old and have the same components as iPhones, if not older, that didn't change price.
Yeah, somebody in Cupertino is just laughing hysterically as you pay $200 for a 4-year-old Apple TV. Right?
And to everyone's, a lot of people on social media, they said, well, it's still the best streaming box, and I agree. Like, if I had to get a streaming box today, I would still get an Apple TV as opposed to anything else. I have a Google Streamer. I've tried lots of other ones. It's better than your built-in smart TV. But for a 4-year-old device, if you can hold out, hopefully it gets updated this fall with Siri AI, which we're going to talk about, and some of the newer features. So we'll see.
I actually bought one like just a month or two ago when I went on this Apple home journey because I needed an Ethernet-based Apple TV to really make some of the Matter stuff work better.
Yes.
And I hated buying it because I felt like, this is, like we're months away from an update. And at the time I thought we'd have it by now, but we don't so far. But at least I didn't pay the extra price for it. But yeah, I'm kind of in that camp. I think they just raised it now because they don't want to have another news cycle about them raising prices when they come out with the other stuff.
Sure.
And they look at the volumes and they're honestly like, I don't think they care,
Sure. Well, I'm hoping the weird thing about the current Apple TV, which is 4 years old, just remind everybody, the cheaper version, not only does it lack Ethernet and has smaller storage, but it doesn't have Thread, which is the smart home connectivity standard that's now even being built into like iPhones and iPads. And it's like, let's hopefully with the next iteration, it won't there be these weird differentiators where if you want better smart home, you have to get the more expensive version. Maybe they'll streamline that. So I'm hopeful at least for that.
And I actually don't feel like this overall price increase is chiseling. I mean, the costs are much more expensive now. I mean, we're seeing it with, like you said, all the electronic gizmos, and storage and memory cost a lot more now. So Apple wants their margins, and the joke was like their exorbitant prices for storage and memory were suddenly reasonable, and somebody at Apple said, "Hold my beer," and then they raised the prices. So, but I actually don't feel like this is gouging so much as like, this is going to happen. Every other computer maker's raising prices, and when I bought my computer, that was a real big consideration for me because the other option was to wait for an M5 Studio. And the rumor was that's getting delayed even further. And honestly, I was thinking about the build out that I wanted, and I don't think I wanted much more than I was going to get with a maxed out laptop. And there's a bunch of reasons. We talked about it on the bonus episode, but I'm happy with the purchase, and I have my M2 Studio here, and I think I'm going to hold on to it. I might need to sell it to pay for tuition or something at some point.
It's probably worth a lot of money.
It's worth more now than it was a few weeks ago. Yeah,
that's the thing. But your timing on that was very wise in retrospect.
But I mean, it wasn't a surprise. I mean, I think people have heard about it.
And I think they held off as long as they could.
Everything costs more now, gang. Sorry.
That's it. That's it. Unless you're getting an iPhone and Apple Watch, but stay tuned this fall as new models come out. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, they're going to make a folding phone. How much do you think that's going to cost, Steven? Just, is it $2,000 or $2,500?
I think it's $2,500.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's 3 screens. Display front and then, a big one on the inside or 2 on the inside. It's going to be expensive.
I am going to hit a nerd crisis in September because all the rumors are that the cameras in the new iPhone Pro are going to be amazing, like variable aperture, like stuff I've wanted forever.
Yeah.
And they're making a folding one. I mean, what am I going to do?
It's going to be a 2-phone year, David. You just got to double fist it.
Well, 2 phone, 1 kidney, maybe.
That's it. That's what it's going to cost. But you know what's free, David? If you want, you can update to the beta right now and try Siri AI.
Yeah,
supposedly.
Yeah, and that's what we've been doing. We've been digging in on it, and that's the goal for today is to kind of share some war stories of working with Siri AI. War stories is the wrong term. It's pretty good.
It's very good, and I'm curious with your M5 Max, your new MacBook Pro. Have you put the beta on that, or are you running that?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, I didn't put it on my main Mac Studio either, nor my main iPhone. I have it on an iPhone Air on the side. So, do you have it on your main one?
On my iPhone, I just put it on my main one, just in prep for the show. I have I bought a used iPhone Air. And I've been running it on that. And if this had been a rough season, I'd still just have it on there. But I've had no problems with these betas. Like even, audio hijack works on it. So it's on the Mac. So I just decided heck with it. And because I wanted to use it more heading into this episode. So we're recording on Tuesday, I think last Friday, I upgraded to the beta on my iPhone, my carry phone, and had no issues, and it's been great.
I think I'm gonna do it soon. I've been hesitant because I've saw some people say smart home stuff is a little wonky, but your experience with your Apple Home has been okay?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not pushing it really hard like the old days, but all of my gear works and all my switches are working. Okay. Nothing. I have seen no evidence of failure. But on my list is to get to the bottom of the resolution upgrade. Is that available to me now? Or do I have to wait until the fall? I just haven't had time to look into that. That's one that's on my list.
Yeah, and on my device, I've not seen anything to tell me that it's there. Also, the smart home notifications where it combines and streamlines them so you don't get 1,000 notifications for door open, close, garage open, close. Yeah. That stuff's not in there yet. But I did update an Apple TV to the beta, and then I started getting some of the descriptions of videos and the different summaries, but the notifications are still wild. So I think some of those features are still going to be coming in the summer.
Yeah.
But Siri AI, I'm curious your experience. I've been using it on my iPad a lot, the Siri app, doing things like helping me build shortcuts, talk about APIs, which we'll get into, even things like world knowledge. But when it comes to personal context, which maybe we could start there, I've been finding it to actually be really good. It takes a week or so to index if you just update to the beta and enable Siri AI. And whether I'm asking it about stuff in my messages, stuff in my mail, and not giving it very much context in my request, I found it to be pretty good. I'm going to do an example live in a second. But for instance, my son is traveling to a camp soon. He's got some flights scheduled. And just being able to ask it, what time is the flight, or what is any information about that, it pulls it from my emails. It can show me messages I sent, and I found it to be pretty good. And I did one example in my video on Siri AI. I was with Mike Hurley at WWDC, and there was a drink order. I got his permission to share this, and when we were at the live talk show with John Gruber, and I asked Siri, I'm gonna try it one more time, and I said, "What drink did Mike Hurley get the other day?" And Siri AI goes off with this request, and let's see if it actually talks me through it. It goes over my results, and this is just in the text messaging.
Mike Hurley asked for a beer, specifically an IPA, if they had it.
Mike Hurley asked for a beer, an IPA specifically, and now that's several weeks ago, and it still pulls it from my text messages and does a pretty good job getting it. But what has been your experience with some of the personal context stuff?
I have been a real jerk to Siri the last few weeks. Okay. And I am intentionally vague with it, and it is hitting it. One of them I asked was, I said, how long will it take to drive to the restaurant in my dinner reservation tonight? we had a reservation at Disneyland, as you do.
As you do.
And it figured out how long it would take to drive to Disneyland. But I never used the word Disneyland. It looked at my reservation and the location and where I was. So it was combining world knowledge with personal context, and it did great,
Yeah. That's some of the cool stuff I did at Apple Park. I was in the Cafe Max at the Visitor Center, and I was able to just hold it up and say, what drinks do people get here?
Yeah.
And it was with the camera, and so it could see where I was. Obviously, it was pinging my location, so it knew where I was, and it would use that world knowledge to go out and pull, things people have posted, whether it's just in forums or whatever, drinks that people recommend. And I was really impressed with what it could do. And I want to try one other request live here, which I know that there's a flight on Sunday where I'm going to take my son to the airport, but I'm not going to tell it. I'm going to try not to give it any context. I'm just going to ask it, what time do I need to leave for the airport this weekend? And I'm not telling who's traveling, what day, or anything like that. And here we go.
You have a Delta flight DL 2605 from Tampa to Atlanta this Sunday, July 5th, departing at 9:58 a.m. Depending on how early you like to arrive at the airport, you should probably plan to leave between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m.
That's pretty good, David.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we wanted. And that's always been Apple's secret weapon is they own the device, or they own the user, I guess. And they've got access to information that isn't generally available to a frontier model. Like you open up ChatGPT, it doesn't know what time your flight is this Saturday. And so if Apple could put together an AI that could access that information securely, privately, that's a very powerful tool.
It is. And I've also found that the world knowledge on the new Siri AI is very good.
Yeah.
So much so that in shortcuts, I built one recently about World Cup recaps.
Yeah.
And I ran the same shortcut in iOS 26 and then the same one in iOS 27, but with the Cloud Pro model, which is the new Siri AI.
Yeah.
And it gives me more accurate, better results. It will actually correctly summarize and tell me what games were played yesterday. And it says June 29th. It was round 32. Gives me the teams and the scores. And I'll also ask it things like movie quotes, which is I open a podcast that I do with a movie quote every week. And that's something where I might have gone to Google before, sometimes an AI tool, but Siri AI has been really good at it, and it's really fast.
Yeah. World knowledge is night and day.
Yes, way better.
It was unusable before. It just
That's fair.
because it would tell you with confidence wrong answers often.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like once this gets out into the public, if people are willing to give it a try, they're going to find that the Siri is no longer a joke, which is what I've been asking for 10 years. I mean,
I mean, it was literally when it was first announced, Phil Schiller announced Siri with the iPhone 4S. It was the personal assistant, and it's not really been able to be that kind of personal assistant, I think, until right now, where even the demo they showed 2 years ago during Apple Intelligence of someone asking, what time should I leave to get to the airport or to get to my kid's musical? This is here now. Like, you can do it, and it works.
Yeah. Can I talk for a minute about the new Spotlight Index?
Yeah, please.
I'm not sold on it yet. It doesn't seem like it's as smart as Apple pretends or talks about in the keynote. What's been your experience?
I've found it a hit and miss, like you're saying. One, I'm still not sold on the Spotlight plus Siri together, because there are times when, like, I'm on my iPad and I want to open an app, drag it into the screen as a window.
Yeah.
And if I want to do that now in iPadOS 27, sometimes it'll just show me like a show results below my Spotlight request. And I have to either hit the down arrow key or click with the mouse to get to the actual results. And it seems to be trying hard at parsing, like, maybe this is a Siri AI request. So it's having to do kind of two things. It's like trying to answer your question or find the thing you're looking for and decide, is this a Spotlight task or a Siri task? And I understand the desire to keep it more front and center, especially for new users or people who wouldn't try it naturally. But I'm not crazy about that behavior just yet, and I kind of wish I could separate it a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like I understand why they did it. They really want people to use Siri. They want that to become a natural interface for folks. And I think they also probably know that they've lost trust with the users on Siri. So I think the only way to get people to use it is to put it in their face every day. So they're going to put it there. I honestly think that's kind of why they did it. But for power users, it's a degree of friction because you're adding basically a switch at the beginning of the process where we didn't have one before.
Yeah, and I almost wish, I know this is a complexity they probably wouldn't do, but I use Spotlight by default on my Macs, and I use the command 1, 2, 3, 4 actions pretty often.
Yeah.
So if you could invoke Spotlight, command 1 is app search, command 2 is file search, 3 is shortcuts and actions, 4 is your clipboard history. I almost wish there was an option or preference to be like, give me a command 5 and let that be Siri AI. Otherwise, just do a normal Spotlight search. And if your indexing is as good as you're saying, Apple, like let that just be my file and folder index rather than be the combined Siri and Spotlight. But we're probably not going to get that.
If nothing else, give us an option to do that. But I think the default will always be that Siri shows up whenever you get anywhere near that stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And on the Spotlight thing earlier, we're at beta 2 now, and I'm willing to give it some grace. The other thing that we're not seeing is, the world or the context should extend to third-party applications. Since WWC, since we recorded that show, I've talked to several app developer friends who are saying, "No, Dave, this is not that hard. We're gonna, it's gonna be there on day one." And I'm hearing from a lot of people. So all the groundwork they've been laying with app intents and kind of the automation stuff over the last few years for smart developers is paying off now. And this Siri, even though they didn't go the MCP route, which is kind of what I wanted them to do, they've essentially made their own MCP that the developers are able to tap into pretty easily. So I think we're going to get a lot of good knowledge in Siri, even in third-party apps.
Yeah, and I think that'll be great, especially, Fantastical. I've not heard from them, but, if they can be there day one, things.
Yeah, I'm sure they're working on it, and I don't know anything, but yeah.
And big apps like Gmail, Outlook, I'm more curious if they'll be there from day one or if they're going to drag their feet a bit because they don't care if you can use Apple's assistant.
Well, it's more than that. Do they want to help Apple build a bigger moat? That's, that's what it is for them.
Well, and Apple's paying Google a bunch of money, so maybe they're inclined to do it, but we'll see about Microsoft. Yeah. But a couple of the tidbits I just want to throw because I was impressed by this. I've been seeing what can I use the Siri AI app, especially on my Mac for, is instead of another AI chatbot.
Yeah.
And one of the things I do when I'm building shortcuts is I will ask it for API help. And I'll say, here's some API documentation. Help me figure out what dictionary values to pull or what the API request URL needs to look like. And I've been really impressed on Siri AI's ability to do that. It's been able to give me API information, tell me what dictionary results to pull. I asked about the movie database API, and it helped me build that. I asked it even for a URL scheme for an app. I had a request in my community for a shortcut that opens a specific DM conversation in the Telegram app with one tap. Yeah. And so rather than go to an AI tool, I went directly to the Siri AI app and I said, is there a URL screen for Telegram, a scheme, and can I do it? And it gave me the right one first shot. I was able to make the shortcut with a simple open URL action, and it did it. And so I've been impressed in a lot of that, but it also can't do a lot of things, which we'll get to.
Yeah. I was thinking about how would I have reacted to this 1 or 2 years ago, and I'd be more over the moon for sure. Because now with Claude Cowork and the things I've been able to build, I kind of take it for granted that these things are smarter and can do this kind of stuff. And I feel like where it does fall down is the harness into files and actions on files.
This was something I was really disappointed about because in Shortcuts, one of the demos I got at last year's WWDC was using Apple Intelligence in Shortcuts on the Mac to rename files based on their content. And I've built shortcuts for this. And so this seemed like a natural Siri AI implementation because on the Mac, you can select multiple files. And in the contextual menu in macOS 27, there's an Ask Siri right there. And I just realized we might be setting off everybody's HomePods if they're listening out loud. So sorry about that. I'll try to say another word like dingus for the name of the voice assistant. But being able to select those files and then doing the Ask Dingus, one of my first requests was rename these files based on the content. And in the app for Dingus AI, it will tell me names it recommends for the files. It will say screenshot blah 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 should be renamed as this. So it clearly can see the file, see the content, give me a name, but it refuses to go that last step and actually change the file name itself. And so those kinds of weird limitations are unfortunate, and also means apps like Claude Cowork or OpenAI Codex still have a lot that they're going to be able to do outside of the AI.
Yeah, this morning I was looking through my email and I set up Backblaze on my laptop and I needed to do an account transfer. I had some stuff and I had a bunch of email from Backblaze, like 5 emails from them, and I don't want to deal with it today. And I told Cowork, take a look at my inbox, take all of the emails that I got from Backblaze and create a task for me to deal with this and put links to each one of those emails in the task and archive the emails,
Yeah.
And
nice.
So I just kind of spit that into Mac Whisper. And then I went and did other stuff and I went back to my email app and they were gone. They weren't there anymore. There's a task with links to those emails. And that's the world I live in now. So the execution phase of Siri AI falls down a bit. Like I could not do that with Siri AI. And I think the holdup is probably Apple being a bit too conservative about it. But
yeah,
I think the processing power is there. The information is there. The knowledge is there. I suspect under the cover, the linking power is there. They just, for whatever reason, aren't taking it that far yet.
Yeah, and there's other missing things like scheduled tasks, where I have many scheduled tasks in Claude, running things on my email, like you just said, but also things like I was using changedetection.io to keep an eye on products in the past.
Yeah.
And now, because that costs monthly and I'm already paying for Claude, I have Claude tasks that do that for me.
Yeah.
And
scheduled tasks, yeah.
I have scheduled tasks I run every hour, and I will give Claude Cowork a pushcut URL and tell it, hey, when you see this thing come back in stock, or if you see this price drop below this number, send me a notification via this URL. And it works great. It can do the pushcut stuff. And so those kinds of scheduled, automated stuff, we're still not there with Apple's AI. But I do think for the regular person, I think their response is going to be largely positive because all the things that they wanted from a voice assistant will be there from day one.
One of the big things Apple said at the keynote was the grammar checking improvements. Are you ready to cancel your Grammarly account?
So this might be a backup situation, David, but I don't use Grammarly.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's not a backup situation. I think Grammarly is a little overrated.
Do you use it or do you use something like it?
I use Grammarly.
Okay.
But it's very aggressive, and I don't take its advice. But I'm just always worried. And even with Grammarly, I managed to publish typos.
Nice.
I had people email me say, "I think you're using AI to write, and there's a typo." I'm like, "Well, pick a side if you're going to complain."
I struggle with that a little bit because with like videos, I have a custom GPT that I use to help me with titles and descriptions.
Yeah.
And I never copy paste it totally.
Yeah.
But I do take it as inspiration. I'll take elements of different titles. I'll end up doing like 20 to 30 title suggestions from ChatGPT, and I'll meld them together. But I'm also like, in order to produce the volume of content that I do, I need these tools to help me. Otherwise, I just won't be doing it. I couldn't get it out there.
Yeah. But the Grammarly thing is interesting. Like my buddy Tim Stringer over at Learn OmniFocus, he refuses to use it when he does journaling because he doesn't want his private thoughts going through the Grammarly robot. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. I think that actually makes sense. And if Apple makes a good onboard grammar checker that does the job, saves you $100 a year, and is private, I think that's the win. I'm looking at it. I'm kind of interviewing it as to whether I can cancel Grammarly. Because like I said, Grammarly wants to do more. It always wants to add commas. And I feel like it tries to rewrite more than do grammar checks sometimes. But we'll see.
Do you do an Oxford comma? Are you an Oxford comma guy?
I mean, first of all, of course, And
Okay.
and
Just making sure.
and secondly, please don't tell me that you're not on team.
No, I'm an Oxford comma guy.
Okay.
I'm an Oxford comma guy. I just wanted to check. I just want to double check. But I want to talk about the kind of cultural response because we talked about Apple's price hikes earlier.
Yeah.
And when those came out, there was a lot of reaction of like, thanks AI.
Yeah.
I shared a reel on it, and I had some friends, and they reshared it with the similar comments of like, if this is what we get, I'll trade AI any day.
Yeah.
And there's a really negative feeling, I think, just in the popular culture about it. But I'm bullish on what people's response will be for Siri AI, because it will, I think, not feel like the other tools like ChatGPT.
Yeah.
A. B, it's because it has that personal context. I think people were going to have a more visceral, positive reaction and be like, oh, it can really help me plan these things, get this information, help me find things, which I think a lot of people, just non-techie people and techie people alike, like, just help me find the thing. I think people just have that emotional, like, I just need to find this thing. I don't know where it is. And Apple's AI is going to be able to do that. But 3, even though a lot of Apple's AI is going on in the cloud via private cloud compute, their deal with Google actually meant some data centers, NVIDIA chips are going to be being used to power Apple's AI. I think people are going to feel like it's happening on their device, and they're going to have the reaction of, this feels better than using a chatbot that I think is running in a data center and having bad environmental impacts. And so I think in this moment, with the negativity on AI, especially as it's affecting pricing, and with Siri AI on the horizon, I think it's going to be positively received. But I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, my thoughts on all this are complex. I feel like Apple is going in an entirely different direction. And I'm not the first person to say this, but the frontier models, the idea is you build up these server farms and you ramp up as much juice into an LLM as you can and see what comes out the back end. And that gives you this conversational chatbot. And if you look at the way Apple executives talk about it, they always say the word chatbot like it's a disease.
Yeah, they don't like it.
And I think that a lot of people right now culturally are not happy with AI in general. I mean, there's environmental impacts on it. There is, it's really disrupting the job market for knowledge workers. If you're coming out of college, there are a lot of companies who are not hiring entry-level people because they're giving that stuff to AI.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a whole bunch going on right now. And also the AI companies don't instill any love. And
Right.
They keep talking about how this stuff is going to kill us all, but nevertheless keep the pedal down. And I don't really buy that it's going to kill us all, especially this version of it, but maybe the one in 20 years will. But, there's just a lot going on. And I have witnessed in my own small circle of friends and family that are not super plugged into technology that there is a real animosity towards AI. And it's young and old alike, for various reasons.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just wait until, and it's already starting, but you have something that takes Steven Robles's voice, because you've done all these podcasts. It generates a convincing version of you, and then it sends a call to your wife saying that, you've been in an accident and you need $10,000 or whatever. And, and they can do that at scale with AI, and they're going to hit a bunch of old people and they're going to steal their money. And then there's just so many negative things that are going to be associated with this, only more as we go forward. Then there's Apple. Apple's staying away from that. They call it Apple Intelligence. They don't call it artificial intelligence. They are disambiguating the AI from the actual technology. Even though they have a Siri app, the real entry point on Apple devices is through, remove this person from my picture. Tell me, look through or just, hey, when did Steven tell me, when are we recording Mac Power users? Look through and it'll look through your chats. You don't even have to tell it where to look. It'll find out, and they're kind of separating themselves from it in the interface. They're also separating themselves with the underlying technology that is largely local and on-device stuff.
Yeah.
So it gets you away from some of the other discussions about environmental impact and costs and, why is everybody buying all the hard drives? And I think that Apple's making a bet that that's going to take off.
I do. And I think the honeymoon period for the AI chatbots is over because when ChatGPT first came out with 2022,
Yeah.
I mean, it was mind blowing that this thing can understand requests at a level not felt before.
Yeah.
And I still remember there was a TikTok that went viral early on, and it was someone who it seemed like not a native English speaker, but there was this woman, and she was just kind of talking for a long time, and her question was, "What's the deal with exchange rates? Like, why is currency different in different countries?" Like that was her question, but her request, like she talked for probably a full minute trying to get to that request, and ChatGPT understood and actually answered her question. And that went viral because it was amazing. Like if you had tried to do that to a smart speaker or to your iPhone at the time.
Or Siri.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it had no chance. It had no chance of figuring out what it is you want. It would have stopped listening halfway through as well. Like you only had a very small window before it started processing. And so I think that honeymoon of, wow, these things can understand me as a human, it was very cool. It was amazing. And I think now people are like, okay, we get the pony trick. Like we understand that's what it's doing. Now, like, I'm not impressed. And also, my laptop is more expensive, and I'll trade it back for a cheaper laptop. And that's the reaction to the Apple pricing. And I think that is what Apple has bet on. And for the last 2 years, it looked like, man, maybe they bet wrong. Like, they just totally missed this. And somehow, I think they're going to pull it out, like, fourth quarter, where the Siri AI on the iPhone is going to do the thing where it will understand those complex requests. It will finally understand, even if you don't say the request clearly, hopefully it will finally get play this song by this artist, and it nails it most of the time. When you tell it a reminder, it'll parse it properly the right time. If all of that pans out this fall when iOS 27 launches, I think a lot of the people, especially outside the tech bubble, then be like, I'll trade it all, for my cheaper prices back. I don't need to pay for ChatGPT Plus, whatever. Like, I'll just take the assistant on my phone because it's finally good enough.
Yeah. And to my earlier rant, there's a flip side because this stuff is truly transformational. I was talking earlier about how I had it pull my Backblaze emails this morning. Like the stuff I talk about, Robot Field Guide, it is... People are doing amazing things every day. There was a guy on the call this week who is a home baker, and that's his business. He makes bread and cookies and sells them at farmers markets and out of his garage. And he says the whole business is based on the robot assistant stuff, where it figures out his shopping list, it figures out his supplies, his costs, tells him when he needs to take the sourdough out of the oven, and like everything, he built basically a software stack for his business with no software development knowledge. So like this stuff is really, I'm not disputing it's transformational, but it's also got a bunch of downsides on it. And I think it's really polarizing. And I think the backlash has really just begun, and Apple is kind of dodging it with what they're doing. But what they really need to do though, is to make those hooks. To my point earlier, the third-party software really needs to work. It needs to become a thing we can rely on. But the big question for me is, as the models get more and more powerful, and they can, now we have models that the government won't even let us use, right? They're so powerful. But for most of us normal humans, we don't need that. We need it to rename our files. We need it to sort our email. The stuff we needed to do is not high-end. And one of the things I'm discovering, Stephen, with this new computer, I got 128 gigs, so I'm running LM Studio, and I'm getting decent-sized models. Most of the stuff I need an AI to do, I can now do on my Mac.
That's nice.
I mean, the harness isn't there. There's pieces missing, but that's coming. Like the normal human AI lift is becoming increasingly something that I think will be satisfied with existing models and local. And does that lead to some big bubble bursting with all these data centers? I mean, I don't know. Don't take advice from me. I don't know what the heck's going on. But I do think that there's a point coming where a lot of the stuff we want AI to do, normal folk like us, even power users, will be accomplished with something like Siri or something local. And then, folding proteins will be done on servers,
That's right, yeah. Well, and I think of Federico Viticci was just on last week, and the wild work that he's doing, reverse engineering shortcuts,
Yeah.
building CLIs for reminders that other people can use.
Yeah.
That no chance he could do that with Apple's AI,
Yeah.
but he used Codex and Claude Code. And so I think kind of like shortcuts, where describe a shortcut coming out this fall, I think it will expose people, like ChatGPT exposed the world to the idea of natural language input and these large language models. The describe a shortcut is probably going to open up people's minds to what is possible, what this can do, introduce it to them, but they'll still need to go to someone else or go figure out how to build it themselves when it comes to that really complex type shortcut or those personal automations that make it most useful to you. And we've been using shortcuts and automations for years, but maybe things like Apple's Assistant will show people what's possible, and there will be some people who need Claude Cowork and Claude Code. Like, I'm still going to pay for it come this fall, even though I have the Siri AI app on my Mac, because there are tasks that is just not possible, whether it's the scheduled tasks, more deep processing, or just simply renaming files, which is something I do. I rename files a lot. I take a lot of screenshots. And so I think, for the techie crowd, I think the tools like Claude and OpenAI will always be there. But for the general public, when they think about what is the AI tool I want to use regularly and that I feel good about using, I think Apple has the other expertly done or somehow stumbled upon, I think, what they're going to want to use.
The more I think about it, there's a spectrum of tools for AI for me. And right now that stack is at the top, Claude Cowork and Claude Code. And then intermediate is LM Studio, running it local on my Mac, which is more private, less expensive, not as powerful, not as easily harnessable. Yeah. And then below that is Siri, which is the interface for my personal data. And I think that's going to be a moving target over time. As the harnesses get better for local models, then maybe I'll need Claude less. As Siri gets more powerful, maybe I'll need the local model less. I just think that it's something that we got to be aware of and just understand the technology. But now Siri is in the conversation, and it wasn't before.
Exactly. And speaking of kind of the vibe coding-esque, Safari, if we could talk about some of the changes there. Yeah. I've been really excited because Safari got some cool features like Notify Me, which you can have it watch a website, and it can only update it once a day, which, again, that's one of those use cases where Claude Cowork with a scheduled task every hour might be more useful if you're watching a more time-sensitive thing.
Yeah.
But Notify Me in Safari is really cool. It does work even if Safari is closed. If you quit it, it actually puts that request in the cloud, but the notification only goes to the device you created it on. So if you want a notification on your iPhone, you'll want to tell Safari in iOS 27 to notify me on my iPhone. But the custom extensions, David, where you can vibe code your own extensions in Safari, I've had great luck with. I'm curious, have you tried building any? Have you had any luck there?
I'm barely into it. But when they described it in the keynote, I'm like, that can't be, and but it is. And there's definite limitations, like you can't distribute them, but you can build them very easily. It kind of goes along the lines of the describe a shortcut thing. But
it does.
It's a great equalizer for Safari because, suddenly the stuff that's missing from Safari, you can just make yourself.
It is very cool. So I'll put a link to a video, and I'll put, because in the video description, I have like prompts that I use to generate the extensions, which was the best I could do to like sharing them, because you can't just share a link. But just to give you an idea, some extensions that I built was an image downloader. So when I'm on an Apple Newsroom page, I can click the extension, one click, and it just saves all the images to my downloads folder, only the high quality images over a certain pixel count, which is faster than downloading the zip file from the page. I have a grab video frame, which was a wild extension. When I'm watching an Apple keynote and there's a live stream, I'll use CleanShot X to grab a screen grab and then post it on social media or whatever.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see, can an extension do that? And sure enough, the Safari Describe an extension, not only does it grab the current frame of the video being played, whether it's a YouTube video, Apple's live stream, but it's not just taking a screenshot. It's actually pulling the frame from the video file itself. And the reason I know this is because if you go to a DRM-style protected streaming site like Netflix, if you try to take a screenshot, it'll just be black.
Yeah.
It's a black screen because they don't want you to steal anything. But if I run that Safari extension that I made on a Netflix stream, it will pull an image. The colors are weird, like something got messed up and the DRM was doing something, but you can get a frame from something like a Netflix stream, which was wild. So that was a cool extension. Things like you can cite a website like an MLA format APA for like a research paper. I created one where when I roll my mouse over an image or element on a web page, it tells me the resolution in pixels of what that is, and even a font extension. So I can roll my mouse over headers and body text on any website, and it will show me in the little pop-up what font is being used via the HTML code. And just little extensions like that, where when you first prompt it for a new extension, it will give you recommendations in the App Store. So if there's an app or extension that it can tell already does what you're asking for, you can download it very quick in that process, or you can always bypass that and just to create it from scratch. And all of these were created from scratch, and they work great, and it's super fun.
Yeah. I mean, you see that slide during the keynote where they fixed so many things, and you got to know that Apple's using AI to like bug fix their own code, right?
Oh, sure.
It's got to be. But now it feels like they've learned that, like, well, let the user do that too. And the way they're letting us do it is with Siri and with custom extensions for Safari. But it makes me wonder, like, how far are they going to go down that stack? Like, what if you wrote something cool in Apple Mail where I could describe a rule and it just created it for me, or a calendar filter group, or, I just feel like, I hope this is the tip of the iceberg for them.
That is true. Yeah, that's a good point. But one thing I did want to mention when it comes to Safari on the iPad, as awesome as Describe an extension is, the iPad Safari browser I still get frustrated by. And it was probably 3 or 4 years ago where Apple said in the keynote the iPad Safari browser is now a desktop class browser, which never really defined very clearly.
Yeah.
But I can tell you from experience, it is not the same as Safari on the desktop. And there are many times where my wife, she kind of uses iPad by default. She has an iPad Pro, and she really likes it. And then she'll go to some website that requires her to fill out a form, or she has to log in, and there's some weird thing about the website that iPad Safari just won't render it properly. And she'll look at me and she'll be like, do I have to go on my Mac for this? And I'm like, I guess. And she'll have to pull out a MacBook Air and do it there. And so I wish, with all this cool Describe extension stuff and Apple AI, I wish that the iPad Safari browser would actually be a desktop browser. And every time I try to edit a Squarespace site, I'm once again reminded, no, this is not the same.
Yeah. Do you feel like the changes they've made in Safari is enough to keep up? I mean, we're living in an era where there's AI-based browsers. Chrome and Firefox and Brave are just like got the gas pedal down. Is Safari keeping up?
Sometimes I wonder, because I would love a one browser life. Because I dual browser right now. I use Safari for 95% of things, and then I open Brave to do Riverside, to do the Claude Cowork stuff if I wanted to do any kind of web control. And I think I would like one browser, but then I think maybe not. Maybe I like it separate. Maybe I only want Claude working in the browser that I open only when I want it to work. And, a lot of people, Safari is not for everyone. And people don't, obviously it's not there for market share. You got Chrome way up ahead.
Yeah.
But man, I still like Safari. I still like tab groups. I like the iCloud tab syncing with my other devices. I use profiles in Safari. I have a profile for MPU. I have a profile for my video stuff. And so I know a lot of other browsers have those features too, but I still prefer it. Do you?
I like the experience in Safari. And when you're on mobile, it's it's always going to sip power as opposed to some of the others. So, I really but I question myself sometimes. Like, am I just drinking the Kool-Aid and using Safari? But I've tried other browsers. I've even tried to switch once in a while. It never really sticks for me. But they're keeping up, but I don't feel like they're really keeping up as fast as some of the other stuff is going. But maybe that's part of the master plan here.
Maybe. And the Describe extension adds some. And there's actually a lot of great Safari extensions in general. Like I've done videos just talking about whether it's picture-in-picture or content blockers or just kind of bespoke ones. And because there's so many great Mac apps, I think of Downy, That's a Transloader, and all these apps have great toolbar type extensions that you can put in Safari. Those, you can't really get some of those elsewhere because they're working with the Mac app themselves.
Yep.
So I'm still a Safari guy, and I also like knowing like tracking and privacy.
Yeah.
Whatever can be done is being done.
Yeah, and that's why I think I probably am in it 90% of the time, but my robot has been using Chrome, but I'm in the process of switching over to Brave for a variety of reasons. Yeah.
Oh, really? What? I'm just curious. What reasons?
Well, first of all, I just don't want to use Google's browser, and the other thing is the way it groups tabs is a pain in the neck, and that's easier to manage in Brave, and Brave is more private.
Okay, yeah, and there were things that came out years ago with like Google Chrome and like passwords and stuff, and I got a little weirded out. So I've been on the Brave kick.
And also, like Google does not make Chrome an efficient application, and now I have a computer that has a battery in it all of a sudden, and so that's a thought,
That is true. That's also the reason, when Gemini, they came out with a Mac app, and I was using more Gemini at the time. Now I pretty much use Claude for everything, but when you download a Google app, there's so many utilities they put behind there, like Google Updater, and that's just going to be in the background all the time. And that was downloaded when I did Gemini. It does when you do Chrome, and like I just don't like that stuff. I'm crazy about
agreed.
it.
Agreed.
But speaking of performance, how's your experience?
I think it's better. I mean, it's just like everything is snappier. Like I was talking earlier about the general bug fix run. This is a snow leopard year, and this has been a very painless beta for me. Asterisk, be careful, But
sure.
But I just like everything. It's just like for the last couple of years, Vision Pro, I installed betas with abandon because Vision Pro was so rough out the gate that every improvement made it better.
Yeah.
This year feels kind of that way across the board.
It's pretty wild, and that's a universal experience. Everyone who has installed the beta, again, do at your own risk. I still don't have it on my main Mac and won't update that until the actual release this fall.
I think I will sooner than later.
You think so?
I wasn't going to tell you, but I think so.
Wait a minute. Are you going to do public beta, or are you going to do one of the dev betas?
I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. But I want to use it more, and I feel like when I've got it on my computer, I'll use it more.
See, I have it on my MacBook. I have it on my MacBook Air, which I use whenever I'm not at my desk, and I like the 6. But Mac, I get weird about my Mac Studio. Like I don't like running betas on it. But the performance has been amazing. Anytime I'm using my iPad has been the best beta experience ever. In past years, my iPad Pro is usually a beta test device, and I edit podcasts in there every day with Ferrite. And in past years, there's been issues, but none of that this year. It's been solid. Things are faster, more reliable. I think AirDrop is better, which is Apple said AirDrop would be better with iOS 27. And one thing that really surprised me, and I actually got to ask someone at Apple about this, if you use iPad Pro, if you're transferring any kind of files from an external drive, like an external SSD, it is much faster in transferring it. And I was curious about that because I would have thought that was a hardware limitation, like the Thunderbolt connection or the drive that you're using. But why does software improve that? And I was told that in iPadOS 27, the underlying architecture of the Files app has been made to much more resemble Finder on the Mac rather than whatever iPad, iPhone-y type Files app was behind the scenes. And so the Files app in general on iPad and on iPhone, much better, much faster. If you ever experience that thing where you go to the Files app on your iPhone or iPad, you tap a folder and like there's nothing there for a while, it's like a blank screen.
Yeah.
That stuff is improved in iOS 27, transfers, all of that. And so I can't say enough good things about it. I think performance and reliability come this fall, I think a lot of people, they're going to be happy when it comes out.
And my new computer, the disk write and read speed is so much faster. Like you put those two together, I'm going to be flying.
You're gonna be flying. So love all of that. And what else is there? The design. I mean, I haven't slid that liquid glass design slider anywhere. Have you?
I've tried it on both extremes. And
okay.
Liquid glass, I'm not as vigilant against it as some of my fellow podcasters. It's okay, but there are definitely some UI issues, like the way that the corner window thing kills me. Like, can you imagine? I hate to say this, but can you imagine Steve Jobs, right? Apple shipped a a version of Mac OS where to move the window, you have to take the mouse outside the window. I mean,
I know it's not often that we invoke that, but I feel like he would have. I don't think he would have let that go through. I feel like I don't know if it would have ever been a problem. Yeah.
So anyway, the liquid glass improvements, I'm definitely in favor of. When push comes to shove, I'll probably push it to the right. I'll probably just keep it less liquid glassy at the end.
More opaque.
I don't get enough joy out of the little visual distortion to justify the hassle. But I think the stability thing to me is a big deal, and we're only in beta 2 now. By the time this thing releases, I think this is going to be a very well received update, and it's going to make Siri work, and Siri's never worked before, and I think it'll just take a couple. There's a reason they invite all these influencers to WWDC, because this is going to take a couple TikTok videos of people doing cool stuff with Siri, and suddenly the world will get it that Siri's good again. And the penny I want to drop is the third-party software stack. I want Siri to work with whatever app that you're using. Like if you like drafts to write, it should search your drafts. If you like, whatever your app is, it should work. And I know that's reliant on some work from developers, but I think that there's a real payoff for them. I think that'll also help shortcuts because they're going to use the same underlying technology. Yeah. And I would imagine, and I've said this before, but I would imagine in the future, Siri is going to be quite useful, and it's going to have access to a lot of great data. And like you were saying earlier, for a lot of people, that'll be enough.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so end with our favorite new features of iOS 27.
The Siri AI. I mean, it's like for so long we've wanted it to be good, and now frankly, it is.
It is. And it's going to be super fun. I mean, we talked about it all last week, but
the
shortcuts. The describe a shortcut, honestly, in my community, I get a lot of requests from people, and sometimes the request is very doable, and I know how to execute it, but it's time consuming. Yeah. Sometimes people just want a bunch of choose from menu type actions, and then it's programming each choose from menu.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's complicated if actions, and you have to like format dates and then do the if statements. And so for one, taking in those requests, I'll be able to show people how to do it themselves pretty soon. But I can take those requests. Sometimes I've even copy and pasted the request into describe a shortcut, and it'll get it. And there was one where someone wanted a automation that whenever their phone connects to CarPlay, if it's a weekday, Monday through Friday, and if it's before 9 a.m., meaning they're commuting to work, automatically send a text to someone.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty straightforward automation to create. I've done it before in different variations.
Yeah, you could wire that up. Yeah.
Well, they're pretty easy, but you got to format the date. You got to format the day of the week. You got to do the if statements.
Yeah, you got to nest those if statements. Yeah.
You got to nest the if statements. But giving it to describe a shortcut, just one shot, and it did all that work for me in a few seconds, formatting the dates, doing the if statements. And, sometimes I'd tweak an action here or there because it got it a little off or maybe added something it didn't need to. But it has been going to save me a ton of time, allow me to experiment more, because sometimes with shortcuts, I'm like, I want to see if this is possible.
Yeah.
But the cost of seeing if it's possible and then it not turning out, it's like, do I waste a couple hours? Having describe a shortcut there to kind of get me started and not have to have the blank page document with the blinking cursor, you can just start from describe a shortcut. And so I'm excited for that and the new actions and shortcuts, especially the storage stuff. It's going to open up a lot of possibilities, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I feel like Apple has, I'm not sure this was all intentional, but it's working out well for them. And
yes.
Like I said earlier, for the stuff most of us need, Siri is well on its way of being enough.
Yeah. And I think I'm excited for people to get in their hands this fall and to see the larger reception. I think you're going to see a bunch of TikToks and reels of like, oh, my iPhone's smart now.
Yeah,
I think people are going to say that.
Exactly.
And it's going to be fun. So, well, we should go talk about Toy Story 5. We got to get to it. I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. So for more power users, you can join and become a member. That link is down in the show notes. You can also get all our monthly bonus episodes now. We got 3 monthly bonus episodes in our Pro Max users feed.
Yeah.
And then our special with our productivity app draft will be coming very soon. So you can get that link in the bio. Thanks to our sponsor, not link in bio. Sorry, that was my That's my Instagram, TikTok
Yeah.
coming out.
You just
Link-
went into autopilot right there.
It's autopilot. The link is in the show notes down below. And thank you to our sponsor this week, 1Password, and we'll catch you next time.